Uncontacted peoples, also referred to as isolated peoples or lost tribes, are communities who live, or have lived either by choice or by circumstance, without significant contact with globalized civilization. Few peoples have remained totally uncontacted by global civilization. Indigenous rights activists call for such groups to be left alone, stating that it will interfere with their right to self-determination. Most uncontacted communities are located in densely forested areas in South America, New Guinea and India. Knowledge of the existence of these groups comes mostly from infrequent and sometimes violent encounters with neighboring tribes, and from aerial footage. Isolated tribes may lack immunity to common diseases, which can kill a large percentage of their people after contact. History. Modern, uncontacted tribes are a source of fascination in developed society, and the idea of tour operators offering extreme adventure tours to specifically search out uncontacted people has become controversial. A BBC4 documentary in 2006 documented a controversial American tour operator who specializes in escorted tours to discover uncontacted people in West Papua, similar to the BBC's own adventure in Papua New Guinea to make its 1971 documentary A Blank on the Map, in which the first contact in over a decade was made with the Biami people. Asia, Andaman Islands, India. Two tribes of the Andaman Islands, in India, have sought to avoid contact with the outside world. Sentinelese people. The Sentinelese continue to actively and violently reject contact. They live on North Sentinel Island in eastern India, a small and remote island which lies to the west of the southern part of South Andaman Island. They are thought to number around 250. Based on helicopter surveys of the island, the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami does not appear to have affected the Sentinelese adversely. It is estimated that they have lived on their island for 60,000 years. Their language is markedly different even from other languages on the Andamans, which suggests that they have remained uncontacted for thousands of years. They are thus considered the most isolated people in the world, and they are likely to remain so. Jarawa. Another Andamanese tribe, the Jarawa, live on the main islands. They rejected all contact, but following the completion of a trunk road traversing their territory in 1997, some have begun emerging from the forest into the open. They are thought to number 300 people. Vietnam. The Root people, when first encountered by North Vietnamese soldiers during the Vietnam War, were hunting-gathering tribes, living in caves in eastern Quang Binh province. Since then, the government has made many attempts to relocate them. Oceania, Australia. In 1984, a group of Pintupi people who were living a traditional hunter-gatherer life were tracked down in the Gibson Desert in Western Australia. For the first time, they encountered people from the Australian society. They are believed to have been the last uncontacted tribe in Australia. New Guinea. Large areas of New Guinea are unexplored by scientists and anthropologists due to extensive forestation and mountainous terrain. Indigenous tribes in Papua New Guinea are generally contacted in the sense that local authorities know they are there, but many remain pre-literate and out of reach of modern medicine and technology, and at the national or international level, the names of tribes and information about them may be extremely hard to obtain. The Indonesian provinces of Papua and West Papua on the island of New Guinea are home to an estimated 44 uncontacted tribal groups. Isolated tribes have been reported also in the eastern Indonesian islands. The uncontacted tribes are located along the following regions: Kwazoi, Lengguru, Kokiri, Dawo, Taraku, Foja, Manu, Morita, Brazadikal. North America, United States. Ishi, Ayahi, is believed to have been the last Native American in Northern California to have lived most of his life completely outside the culture of the United States. In the year 1911, he emerged from the wild near Aeroville, California, leaving his ancestral homeland in the foothills near Lassen Peak. There are currently no known uncontacted peoples in North America. South America, Bolivia. As of 2006, the presence of 5 uncontacted groups was confirmed in Bolivia. 3 more uncontacted groups are believed to exist. The groups whose presence has been confirmed are the Areo in Cuellar National Park, the Mbayuqui in the Yuqui Reservation and Rio Ushurenta, the Yuracare in Santa Cruz and Beni, the Parker-era in the Chocobo Reservation, and a group of Arena in the Arena Reservation, and the Tremona in Maid-D National Park. The presence of other groups, such as the Nawa in Maid-D National Park, has yet to be confirmed. Current situation: as of 2013, the situation of uncontacted people in Bolivia has improved since the election of Evo Morales as the president. Bolivia signed the Belém Declaration in 2005, which recognized the basic rights of the uncontacted people. The status of the uncontacted people of Bolivia are as follows. Arreo, reported from the Bolivian Chaco, consists of around 5 families, reported from the Collao del Gran Chaco National Park. There are 4 bands, of which names of 2 are known, Arta copyright Tadie Gusod and Tashi Gosod. Yuki, composed of some 4 families. They have intermittent contacts with the Christianized Yuki, who were resettled by the Christian New Tribes Mission in the 1960s to the village of Biraquate. Lives in the Yuki native community land Tierra Sumunitaria de Origen, TCO, especially near the El Chor Forest Reserve. A small band is also found in Rayo Usuta. According to reliable sources, the Yuki number some 49 families, of which 35 are Christianized and 14 are uncontacted. However, David Jabin claims that only 4 families remain in isolation currently, after the NTM infamously airlifted large number of isolated Indians to Biraquate in 1989 and 1992. Yuki and Yurika, lives in the Isabra Secure National Park Indigenous Territory. The Yurika are under threat from drug traffickers. Parker-era, a small band composing of 5 families reported from Santa Rosa de Abuna municipality in Pando. Christian evangelists from the Chocobo Parker-era captaincy were attempting contact as of 2013. Also reported from Arroyo Cauva in between the Rayo Parker-era and the Rayo Negro. Tremona, Isija, and Nawa, reported from the Maid-D National Park. The region is quite remote, and this seems to keep out the loggers and missionaries. The Tremona are found along the Rio Colorado and Rio Enjajua. The Yora are nomads who crisscross the Bolivia-Peru border, and are found along the Rayo Heath region. Arena, uncontacted bands live in the Arena native community land. Reported from Rayo Manumi and Alta Manupa. The contacted bands of Arena number some 100 persons in total, and live under the supervision of the fundamentalist Christian organization New Tribes Mission. Both the NTM and the SIL are pursuing forced contact with the remaining uncontacted Arena, but these attempts have ended in failure. In addition to these groups, some other groups also exists with intermittent isolation. Brazil. On January 18, 2007, FUNAI reported that it had confirmed the presence of 67 uncontacted tribes in Brazil, up from 40 in 2005. With this reported increase, Brazil has surpassed the island of New Guinea as the region having the highest number of uncontacted tribes. The 7 terras indigenas exclusively reserved for isolated people are, Ti Alto Tarawaka in Acre various tribes. Ti Himarima Pound in Amazonas Himarima Pound. Ti Masako in Rondônia Sirena Cubed, Isolados do Rio Zá Poundo Cima Poundo. Ti Igarapa copyright Omara in Rondônia Cano do Omara and Acuntsu, Ti Rio Muqui in Rondônia Isolados das Cabeceras do Rio Muqui. Ti Rio Pardo in Mato Grosso in Amazonas Isolados do Rio Pardo. Ti Xanão Isolados in Acre unidentified. Uncontacted groups living in other people's TIs are, Ti Awa in Marana Pound Oa Awa. Ti Novarara in Amazonas. First contacted by Xinity missionaries in 2010. Ti Avacanoro in Goya sa Avacanoro. Ti Arrera do Rio Branco in Mato Grosso Isolados da Margem Escada do Mar copyright Dia Rio Roosevelt Rio Branco. Pi Arapuena Pound in Rondônia Isolados da Margem Escada do Mar copyright Dia Rio Arapuena Pound. Isolados do Rio Paquitinga Arapuena Pound, Isolados do Mar copyright Dia Rio Branco do Arapuena Pound. Ti Bijua in Amazonas, Ti Cara in Marana Pound Oa Awa. Ina Pound Wak copyright Buona, and a small part of Ti Park do Araguaia in Tocantins Ava Canoro. Ti Campa e Isolados do Rio Envira in Acre Isolados do Rio Envira. Ti Caxanawa do Rio Hamata in Acre unidentified. Ti Cotonamo in Para unidentified. Ti Mankragnoti in Para Mengramrari. Ti Raposa Serra do Sol in Roraima unidentified, discovered in 2006. Near Monte Roraima and Monte Cabura. Ti Mamoadate in Acre Mashco. Ti Germanora Envira Isolados das Cabeceras do Rio Germanora. Ti Rios Inu do Alto Envira in Acre Isolados do Rios Inu Envira. Ti Rio T in Amazonas 4 bands of NAD. Cabecera dos Rios Guarana section U Guararu, Mar copyright Dia Rio Tiquia copyright, Cabeceras dos Rios Curiari and Cabeceras do Rio T. 2 more bands nearby in Niue and Urabaxi are possibly needed. Pi Chimuku make in Para a Curio. Ti Wow in Rondania 4 to 6 groups of isolated people, including Isolados das Cabeceras do Rio Muqui, Isolados do Rio Corta Rio, Cabeceras do Rio Igla Branca and Juraru. Ti Vale do Javari in Amazonas 7 groups of isolated people, Cabeceras de Santana e Igarapa copyright Flexra, Carubo, Isolados do Rio Branco, Isolados do Rio Quixoto, Isolados do Rio Jandiatuba, Isolados do Rio Jutra e Isolados dos Rios Jacarona Ambaras. Ti Wamriatrari in Amazonas Formadores do Rio Alala and Formadores do Rio Jatif. Ti Xacran do Cateta copyright in Para. Ti Ararabacube dia in Mato Grosso Isolados dos Rios Buriticupe e Taupara. Ti Comuna Panama unregistered trademark a copyright. Ti Tanara only one individual, the Tanara isolated Indian. Remaining members of the tribe were massacred or wiped out by disease. Of the known uncontacted peoples of Brazil, according to the above, 16 live in the Brazilian state of Amazonas, 7 in Rondônia, 8 in Para, 2 in Acre, 3 in Mato Grosso, and 1 each in Amapá, Marana Poundo, Roraima, Tocantins, Goiás and Minas Gerais. Keep in mind some migrate between state lines. Current situation, as of 2013, in 2013, FUNAI published a list of 77 bands of uncontacted and recently contacted people, along with a digital map showing the locations. This list includes 23 confirmed references, 47 references which are under study, as well as 7 references included as recently contacted. The recently contacted bands are Carubo do Igarapa copyright Quebrado, Zayuro unregistered trademark a copyright, Acuntu do Vale do Rio Omara, Igarapa copyright Dos Indios, Cano do Vale do Rio Omara, and Zuraha. In addition to the 77 groups listed by FUNAI, Survival International reports 4 more bands of uncontacted people living in the indigenous reservations of Ituna Latata, Cotinamo, Xacran do Cotet, and Rio Bia. Colombia, due to ongoing paramilitary conflict, Colombia is a country that offers little protection for isolated groups. Correbra Arroyo is the one such group, living in the Parque Nacional del Rio Pure. It is not known whether any Yari survives now. New Maku were contacted in 2003 and 65% of the tribal members died of disease. Around 2 or 3 dozen New still remain isolated. Ecuador, it is not known whether any Tagari survive now in Yasuni National Park. In the 1990s when a member of Tagari was contacted by a lone Guarani hunter, he told him that Tagari numbers only a handful of members and are in danger of being wiped out by their hostile neighbors the Tarimanan. Since then there have been no more peaceful contacts. The Tagari hunter also mentioned another group, the O plus or minus A Mainan who numbered 5 or 6 individuals, and one other tribe the Huia plus or minus a Tear. In 2003 about 30 Darimanan were massacred by the Guarani in retaliation for the killing of a Guarani hunter. In the same year 14 Tagari were killed by loggers. In April 2006 a logger was speared to death by the Turimanan. In the same month a further 30 Turimanan and 10 loggers were killed in conflicts according to leader Kiama Oman. In January 2007 the President of Ecuador declared the southern part of Yasuni a forbidden zone in order to protect the uncontacted people. At the same time Guinea reported that there are a total of 150 euro 300 Turimanan and 20 euro 30 Tagari surviving uncontacted there. The O plus or minus A Mainan and Huia plus or minus Atera extinct. Current situation, as of 2013, the uncontacted bands or nuclear families belonging to the Turimanan and Tagari tribes were located in and around the tributaries of the Rumiaku, Tipitini, and Curare rivers. The major bands identified in 2013 were, Kayaka Band, located in the southwestern side of the Forbidden Zone, along the Rio Curare. This particular band has been almost exterminated by frequent conflict with the Babiri group of the Christianized Urarani. Indigenous organizations have accused the oil companies of bribing the Babiri, in order to exterminate the uncontacted Indians. In a major massacre in 2003, more than 15 uncontacted Indians were massacred with shotguns and hunting rifles. Tivacuno Band of Yasuna. The band is located entirely inside the Forbidden Zone, which was set up for their protection. The ethnic identity is believed to be Tagari, led by an elder known as Nankamo. This group speaks the Urarani language. Clashes between the uncontacted Indians and the Christianized ones haven't been reported for the past many years. Chico Kononako Band, located along the Taiwano Road. This group have been heavily decimated due to armed conflicts. It is believed that this band is composed of Turimanan men and Tagari women. The conflicts occurring in this region is not a new phenomena. The conflict started as early as the 1970s, when oil companies recruited Quechua Indians for their drilling and exploration work. To maintain the law and order, the Ecuadorian government asked the SIL missionaries to resettle the Urarani to regions away from the oil blocks. In return, the missionaries were supported by the oil companies, who provided them with helicopters and other articles. Most of the Urarani relocated, but the remaining free bands soon took over the vacant lands. A part of the territory which was formerly occupied by the extinct Zapara tribe was also conquered. In March 24, 2013 more than 20 uncontacted Turimanan Indians were massacred by Christianized Indians who were armed with shotguns and carbines. Human rights activists Miguel Angel Cabodavila and Milagros Aguirre authored a book called A Tragedy Hidden Away detailing the massacre, but the Ecuadorian Supreme Court banned its distribution. The book was later released on the Internet. French Guiana, as of 2013. No uncontacted ethnic groups exists in French Guiana. Guyana, as of 2013, no uncontacted ethnic groups exists in Guyana. Paraguay, there remain perhaps as many as 300 Totobi Egosod who have not been contacted. They belong to the Arao ethnicity, which numbers around 2,000. In the 1990s the main group attempting to contact them was New Tribes Mission. In 1979 and 1986, the New Tribes Mission was accused of assisting in the forcible contact of nomadic Arao Indians, whose unsuccessful attempts to remain in the forest led to several native deaths. Others died soon after being brought out of the forest. The incident forced some Arao to flee to Bolivia. Currently the main threat to these peoples are ranchers, who illegally encroach on their lands. In 2004 a group of 17 Arao Totobi Egosod previously uncontacted made contact with the outside world and decided to settle down. It was not known whether there were any more isolated Arao left in the jungle. In the first week of September 2007, another uncontacted band of Arao Totobi Egosod was spotted by loggers in the western Chaco. Arao are believed to be the last uncontacted Indians south of the Amazon basin. In 2008, a Paraguayan ruling blocked a Brazilian company from clearing Totobi Egosod to make room for cattle ranches, although the forest is still being cleared illegally. Peru, there are now 5 reserves in the Peruvian Amazon meant to protect the lands and rights of isolated peoples. Most of the reserves are currently entered by illegal loggers and petroleum companies with legal concessions to work in those lands, although their activities jeopardize the lives of the isolated populations. After Brazil and New Guinea, Peru has the largest number of uncontacted tribes in the world. Some of the groups in Peru are in danger of extermination by loggers and oil development. As of 2006, the locations where uncontacted groups are confirmed to be living are as follows: Amaracanari Communal Reserve, Groups Ayura and other unidentified Panoan tribes. Zona Reservada Biabo Cordillera Azul, Cacatibo. Parque Nacional del Manu, Mashco Pyro, uncontacted bands of Matsi-Guenga, tribes belonging to Yura family and unidentified tribes. Reserva Communal Ashaninka, Reserva Communal Matsi-Guenga and Parque Nacional Otishi, uncontacted bands of Ashaninka. Parque Nacional Alto Pura S and Reserva Communal Pura S, Yamanawa, Chitanoa, Curigi ±O and Mashco Pyroia ± Apari. Reserva Territorial del Estado, Kaapakari, Nawa, Matsi-Guenga, Nanti, Kriniri and other unidentified tribes. Reserva Territorial del Muranawa y Chitanoa, Muranawa, Chitanoa. Reserva Territorial del Esconoa, Esconoa. Reserva Territorial del Mashco Pyro, various tribes belonging to Mashco Pyro such as Mascho Pyroia ± Apari. Reservas Territoriales del Cacataibo, Cacataibo. Current situation: as of 2013, more than a dozen uncontacted bands of Indians remained in Peru as of 2013. The current status is as follows: Mashco Pyro, divided into at least 3 different bands. One band lives in Rio Puris Basin in South Ucayali, while 2 more were reported from the Rio Las Piedras Basin. A 4th band, whose existence is not confirmed, is reported from Alto Rio Urua. Each band is believed to be divided into small nomadic subdivisions. The Mashco Pyro are the remnants of a much larger tribe which was destroyed during the rubber boom. In the 1960s, 2 of the bands were attacked using dynamite and other explosives by workers from the International Petroleum Company. Attacks after 1999 have been due mainly to the increasing prices of mahogany. In 2002 a reserve was set up for some of the Mashco Pyro bands. As of 2013, all the bands seem to be surviving. Between 2005 and 2013, Miguel Piavison, an Italian Christian missionary, campaigned for a road from Puerto Esperanza to Inapari, which would cut through the Mashco Pyro Reserve. As a result of Piavison's campaign, which got good support from the non-indigenous population of the region, the government declared its intention to construct such a road. This is likely to push the tribe towards extinction. Kagapakari and Nawa bands of Matsajenka, although most of the Matsajenka are contacted, some are still uncontacted. The contacted Matsajenka were forcibly resettled by the Summer Institute of Linguistics in the 1950s. The uncontacted bands are reported from Alto Rio Paquiria. As of 2013, the attacks against the uncontacted bands has slowed down, after government created tribal reserves. Nanti, found along Rio Camasia, Rio Timpia and Rio Ticampina. Related to Matsajenka. The first attempted contact was in the 1970s by Christian missionaries, which was followed by loggers and petroleum workers in the 1980s and 1990s. Attempts to contact the tribe continued in 2000 to 2009 using helicopters. Epidemics such as acute respiratory infections and severe diarrhea has been reported as a result of these attempts. A regional indigenous organization, Consejo Matsaguenco del Rio Urubamba, reported that a large number of Nanti died in 2003 of epidemics, although the government later countered the claim saying that only 22 has died of epidemics from 2002 June to 2003 June. Most of the dead were children. In 2008, anthropologist Christine Bellier reported that between 30% and 50% of the Nanti has died during 2000 to 2008 due to epidemics. Ashaninka people. Ashaninka, most of the uncontacted bands of Ashaninka located along the foothills of Cordillera Vilcabamba. Population was estimated at 90 families in 2010. During the 1980 and 1990, hundreds of uncontacted Ashaninka are believed to have died in the conflicts between government troops and left-wing guerrillas. As of 2013, the attacks against the Indians has slowed down and their villages are located inside the Otishi National Park and the Ashaninka Communal Reserve. Isolados do Rio Yavari e Rio Tapic, evidence suggests that this group speaks some of the Panoan languages. There are two distinct tribes, with the one in the north related to the Matses or Northern Mayaruna, while the southern one related to Esconoa or Remo/Southern Mayaruna. In 1964, the Peruvian Air Force attacked some of the villages with napalm, killing a large number of Indians. The tribes frequently crisscross the Brazil-Peru border. In 2010, the Marubo living on the Brazilian side of the border claimed that more and more Mayaruna from Peru are crossing over to Brazil, in order to escape from loggers and missionaries. Violent clashes has occurred recently between the contacted Marubo and the uncontacted Mayaruna. Missionaries from the Summer Institute of Linguistics are currently attempting to contact the uncontacted bands. Esconoa, located in North Ucayali, near the Brazil border. The villages are located in between Alto Rio Caleria, the Rio Utuquinha and the Rio Abrage. A reserve was established in 1998. In 1959, missionaries from the South American Mission attempted to contact one of the bands of Esconoa. This band numbered more than 20 people. The missionaries moved them to Lower Rio Caleria, but almost all of them died of epidemics. The Esconoa calls themselves Nukuini, and are thought to be the descendants of the once large Remo tribe. Most of the villages are covered by the Esconoa Territorial Reserve. The area is currently under extensive occupation by loggers, drug traffickers and mining workers. Isolados do Rio Caleria e Rio Maquia, locally known as Kapinawa, speaks a Panoan language. The villages are covered by the Sierra del Divisa Reserved Zone and border the Esconoa Territorial Reserve. Yora, and other tribes, the Peru-Brazil border region along the Peruvian states of Madre de Dios and Ucayali, with the Brazilian state of Acre is home to a number of isolated bands. The region is bound by Rio Yura to the north and Rio Puris to the south. The Indians call themselves the Yora. Language is Panoan. During the 19th century, more than 100 different Panoan tribes lives between Yura and Puris. The Yora are believed to be their remnants. Muranawa and the Chitanoa, found between Alto Rio Yura and Rio Envira, along the Peru-Brazil border. Both tribes are under extreme harassment from the loggers, and a large part have been forcibly contacted and resettled near missionary outposts. Muranawa Territorial Reserve was established in 1997, but was soon overrun by the loggers. Mastinawa, live along the Rio Puris and Rio Curanja basins. In 2006, one member was contacted by the Christian Pioneer Mission and taken to the Puerto Paz village. This was followed by a small number of other Mastinawa. However, the remaining uncontacted Indians have recently engaged in violent conflicts with the villagers of Puerto Paz. Cacataibo, uncontacted bands are found along Rio Pisqui, Rio Arguatia, Rio San Alejandro, Rio Sangoroyacu and Rio Pazuzo in the Loratu, Ucayali and Huánuco provinces. Contacted Cacataibo have clashed with the uncontacted Indians, and have found their language difficult to understand. The government has refused to establish territorial reserves for the uncontacted Cacataibo. Currently the region is under invasion by loggers, petroleum explorers and coca farmers. A tuberculosis epidemic is also reported in the area. Isolated groups along Peru-Ecuador border, reported from Rio Napo, Rio Ashiri, Rio Nashino, Rio Curare, Rio Arabila, Rio Tangarana and Rio Pucacaro, in North Loratu province. It is believed that most of the bands are related to Zapero and Urarani. Presence of two Urarani bands has been confirmed. Pananujari, a Zaparoan group is found near Rio Ailman. A decade ago, two groups tried to establish contact with the Pananujari. The first one was a Russian anthropological group, which was somewhat successful, and the second was the Christian missionary organization Summer Institute of Linguistics. The SIL alleged that the Russians gained unlawful entry into the uncontacted territory, although no negative consequences were reported. Isolated groups along Peru-Ecuador border, reported from Alto Rio Tambo Pata and Rio Malinaski. Threats against the uncontacted were insignificant. Isolados do Rio Manu, probably Panoan. A part of the territory is unprotected. Isolados do Alto Rio Yaco, known as Masco. Frequent cross-border movement to terra indigena Mamoadate in Brazil. Most probably related to Yura. Language not intelligible to the Yamanawa of Mamoadate. Suriname, as of 2013, no uncontacted ethnic groups exists in Suriname. Venezuela, there are 3 uncontacted tribes living in Venezuela. They are Hoti, Yanomami and Pairoa. The vast majority of the members of these tribes are already contacted and only a few live in isolation. Another isolated group, the Sape of Rio Carun, became extinct during the 1990s. Hoti, located near Rio Queima and the Sierra de Maguiolada region. Most of the contacted Hoti live in the missionary outposts of San Jose de Cayama and Cano Iguana. About 40% of the Hoti are nomadic, while the remaining 60% are stationed in various missionary outposts. The Venezuelan government expelled the Christian missionary group New Tribes Mission from the Hoti lands in 2006, in order to prevent the forcible contact. Yanomami, there are a total of 25,000 Yanomami, who live in approximately 250 villages. There are 5 bands of Yanomami which live in isolation. These include Alto Rio Siapa, between Sierra Parima and the Cerro Delgado Chalbord, between Alto Rio Ocamo and the Rio Mutachini, Alto Rio Cora, and Alto Rio Paragua. Pairoa, small isolated bands of Pairoa are located near Alto Rio Curao and Rio Pahueza. These bands are locally known as Comunidades de Tierra Adentro. The regions where they live are extremely difficult to access. See also: Indigenous peoples of the Americas, list of ethnic groups, noble savage, stateless society, state of nature, terra nullius, tribe, unreached people group, references. External links: Survival International, Indigenous Peoples Issues and Resources, Cultural Survival, The Unconquered, In Search of the Amazon's Last Uncontacted Tribes, by Scott Wallace.